I'm going to tell y'all, just so that y'all aren't left hanging, that things kind of came to a head between me and the man whom I was in correspondence with, whom I suspected of being a handler of some kind. When he became aware that that's what I thought of him, he became offended, or at least affected offense. I don't know. And I want to make it absolutely clear that I don't know whether this guy was a handler or not. I just had a sense of things. My spidey senses were tingling. And when you're someone in my position, it's kind of an odd position to be in, kind of paradoxical, because on the one hand, I'm not known at all. I'm not a known quantity whatsoever. But on the other hand, I know that I am visible to the powers that shouldn't be. And I say that without any kind of grandiosity or like, oh, I'm really, they're really worried about me. I'm striking a blow here, and they're all concerned about me. No, I know that I'm I'm very small fry, but I think I am still conspicuous enough to be on their screen, on their radar screen. And they've got a lot of resources at their disposal. So it's not me just being completely weirdly paranoid to think that somebody out there might be trying to handle me or trying to steer me in a particular direction. And this particular person, although we had an amiable kind of correspondence for the most part, I became aware of certain things that troubled me, or that again, the fact that he kept hitting these particular points over and over and over again, had finally just made me think, I this guy could well be a what I called a handler. Could well be someone who was sent. You know, doesn't mean he's a bad guy necessarily. Nothing personal here. It's just that's sort of it was something that to me made sense. And now, if you think that I'm just crazy and over the top and paranoid, I mean, I don't know what to say to that. If you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm not sure that this guy was a handler. I just came to suspect that he was, and it was a strange position to be in, I'll say, for me. Now, I thought it would be worthwhile to talk about the sort of things that this particular handler really, if you will, harped on. Ways in which he seemed interested in shifting my perspective, shifting my general way of viewing things. Because, well, I think you'll see in a minute that it does kind of line up with a particular sort of perspective that I think tends to glow. Okay, but again, I'm not. I don't mean to cast aspersions, and I'm not. And don't try to find out who the guy is. I'm not giving anything away personal. I'm not doxing him. It would have to be way more. I'd have to be way more sure, and it would have to be something where I was convinced that this person was just a malignant sort of individual, for me to resort to doxing. And even then, I just don't enjoy. I'm not a doxer. I don't do that. My enemies do that, but I don't do that because I think it's low down, and I think I'm better than that. So one of the things that he harped on a lot to me was about conspiracies. Um, he seemed to be very against conspiracies. He seemed to think that conspiracies were generally just stupid and crazy, and that they weren't worth my time, and that I should abandon my resources, or abandon abandon going down that route. Now, he said this as someone who seemed like a kind of connoisseur of certain things, and even someone who maybe approved of certain conspiracies, but for the most part, especially when it comes to something like Pizzagate, he seemed to be who he referred to as Q, like the Q people, And if you want to put down Pizzagate thinking, just refer to them as Q, because Q, the Q people, whether consciously or not, whether this happened because they wanted it to happen, or I mean whether it was all intended to be a false flag or not, but the Q people, I think, embarrassed themselves when Trump didn't expose all of the perverts, and when we didn't have disclosure like we thought we were going to under Trump, because they were all very like, Trump's the man, Trump is the one who's gonna get it done, and Trump didn't get it done. So referring to them as Q people is just sort of the way you'd go about talking about them if you wanted to disparage them. And I've never been affiliated with Q, never been an advocate of Q. I think some people who follow Q are good people who have just been misled. That said, I do believe in Pizzagate, Pedogate, whatever you call it. But okay, so that's one thing. This guy, who I thought was a handler, that was one thing that he harped on, was about the stupidity of conspiracies. I mean, and that's like everybody's against conspiracies now. I mean, all of the established authorities are now anti-conspiracy. It's interesting to realize that wasn't always the case. The X-Files. I just watched a few episodes of the X-Files, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video, because seeing it in retrospect now was interesting. The X-Files, which were on for most of the 90s, I mean, that was all about conspiracies. Granted, there was nothing about Pizzagate type of stuff, but there was a lot about how we weren't being told the truth, or we were being lied to, and the people who pretend to have our best interests at heart, the powers that shouldn't be, were actually bad people. That thread ran through the show, and Agent Mulder was a hero in that show, and he was someone who believed these kinds of things, believed in conspiracies. He was a conspiracy realist, we would say. Anyway, but today X-Files wouldn't get made. I don't think. If it got made today, looking with the same kind of storyline that it had in the 90s, then people would say, "Oh, this is just being made by Trump, by Trump supporters, and or get disparaged." And there's no way the establishment would let it go, let it even happen. Which is an interesting thing, but I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about that now. Just okay. So one of the things was conspiracy, like that my my suspected handler talked about a lot was don't go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. It's silly. It's stupid. There's nothing there. It's just a bunch of crazy people and fanatics and stuff. Okay, so that's one. The second thing that he harped on a lot was anti-manosphere stuff. He was sort of like a right, like a white nationalist feminist, I would say. In that he thought, that all of the stuff that was being put out by the manosphere was just bunk, and it was silly and stupid, and that they were all just a bunch of incel. He used the word incel as an insult a lot, and that's something else that people do. People who are that's like the use of the word incel as a slur to use against anyone who is critical of women's behavior. That is a red flag. I would say. It's cheap. It's like it's rhetorically cheap. I find, to just say, oh well, you're just an incel. It's very much of a piece with the rhetorical style of a lot of people who aren't I don't think handlers or in any way affiliated with intelligence agencies, but it's just this sort of oh well, you think this is you think that there's a crisis in modernity. You think that there's too much hypergamy amongst modern women. Well, you're just an incel. You're just a bitter incel. So this was something that he also pushed a lot. It was like specifically about white women. We've got to stand up for white women. White women are the best. And look, I'm nothing against white women, okay, as a group at all. But I think that the things that I believe the things that Manospherians bring to light have some merit. And this my handler guy just absolutely was not willing to engage on that at all, and he kept throwing me stuff. Kept saying, believe this, believe that. Be a supporter of our strong, good white women. So that was the second thing. First thing, anti-conspiracy. Second thing, anti-manosphere. And finally, this was more muted, but the third thing that he would talk about is just basically globalism, being pro-globalist, not being critical of of globalist efforts. And he sent me something once about how it's like being a pro-NATO centrist is really furthering the cause of white nationalism. And I was just, I didn't have much to say to that. I mean, I don't know what you say in response to that kind of thing. But these are all things that seem to be of a piece with what I understand, like the Richard Spencerians to be believing, and the Daily Shoah people, who I haven't thought of or listened to in years, but from what I have gathered through the grapevine, these seem to be things that they hit on a lot. They make fun of dorky men. They say, I remember their shtick, Chateau Autiste, where they would make fun of guys who are socially unsuccessful with women, and they promoted Chad nationalism. This is going back years, but I remember that like this whole sort of anti-manosphere, almost feminist, perspective, at least when it comes to white women. We gotta praise our strong white queens. That whole line, and seems to be of a piece, and the being contemptuous of conspiracy theories and thinking that conspiracy theories are gay and retarded and that sort of thing. And of course, this whole, no, we should be in favor of the globalist efforts, and we should get behind the EU, and we should get behind NATO, and we should be all for the efforts of NATO and the EU in Ukraine. I don't think they say the same thing about Israel, though. I think there might be a bit of a rift there as far as when I heard Richard Spencer talk recently, he was talking about how he couldn't support Biden again. Why he ever could support him in the first place is beyond me. Unless he glows, which is something I very strongly believe, or strongly suspect, I should say. I won't say I strongly believe. But because I don't know. What do I know? But that seemed like the behavior of what Biden is doing, and what the whole support of Israel through the assault on Gaza seems to be opening a rift there. But as far as just being a encouraging me to be a pro-white nationalist, feminist who looks down on incels and looks down on MGTOW and thinks the manosphere is just a bunch of shit that needs to be dismissed out of hand, and also thinking that conspiracies are gay and dumb. Again, it's possible to have those opinions and not glow. I'm not denying that. But when you're someone like me, who is known, okay, my name is known, I'm on some lists, and I have somebody who's just barraging me with this stuff, trying to get me to, like, why not just move on? Why even engage me at all if he knows that I'm not those things? If he knows that I'm sympathetic to the conspiracies, if he knows that I'm sympathetic to, I'm not uncritically sympathetic, but generally sympathetic to Manospherian, to issues raised by the Manosphere types, and that I'm completely against globalism. Why would he even waste time with me, unless he was trying to influence me to change my mind? Why would he devote so much effort to this project? I just don't know. And again, I don't know whether he was a handler or not. But I just wanted to point out those are the things. If he was a handler, it's very interesting that it all coalesces around the Richard Spencer, the current Richard Spencer kind of perspective on where we ought to go with white nationalism, and where we ought to go with it all seems to I don't know, to be of a piece there. And if Richard Spencer glows, and like a white nationalist who goes on CNN and talks about how Trump supporters are stupid, like, you're telling me you don't suspect that a guy like that, somebody who was allowed to keep his Twitter page through everything. You know, even when he was outed as being, you know, the villain behind the alt-right, the villain behind the Charlottesville debacle, and so forth. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think below. If you have any, if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm on the right path or not. Interested to hear what anybody has to say. Thanks for watching.